In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. Has there reached you the report of the overwhelming event?
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayat 18, for the Tafsir.
Some faces that day will be humbled.
Commentary. Many faces on that day will be humbled, working hard, exhausted. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayat 3, on the Day of Judgment. There will be two separate groups of people, believers and unbelievers, and their faces will be different. This verse describes the faces of the unbelievers. They will be downcast. The word khashiyah from the root word khasha means to humble, humiliate, cast down. This is the meaning of casting oneself down before Allah in prayer. People who did not cast themselves down before Allah in this world, their faces on the Day of Judgment will be downcast with humiliation and disgrace. The other conditions of the unbelievers are amla and nasaba. The word amla from oral means to work hard, and amal or amla in Arabic is used for a person who works continuously so as to become completely tired. The word nasaba is derived from nasab. This word also refers to one who toils unceasingly so as to become totally exhausted. It seems that the latter two conditions of the unbelievers relate to this world, because hereafter is not a realm in which one has to work to become so tired and exhausted. Therefore, Qutubah and other commentators are of the view that the humbleness of their faces relates to the hereafter, but their working hard and being exhausted refers to their work in this world. Given this interpretation, the sense is that many unbelievers exert themselves in their false rituals and work hard in their presumed acts of worship in the world, as for instance the Hindu yogis and many Christian monks do. They endure many difficulties in the devotional acts of worship sincerely in order to seek the good pleasure of Allah, but being on wrong and idolatrous ways, they are not acceptable to or rewarded by Allah. Thus their faces show signs of exhaustion in this world, and in the hereafter they will show signs of disgrace and humiliation. Sayyidina Hassan Basri reports that when Sayyidina Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, went to Syria, a Christian monk came to him. He was an old man, and on account of his religious exercises and great endeavors, his face was exhausted, his body was dry, and his dressing was miserable. When Sayyidina Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, looked at him, he began to weep. People asked him about the cause of his weeping. He replied, I pity the condition of this old man. This poor soul worked so hard and showed such readiness to lay down his life to achieve a particular purpose, that is, to gain the pleasure of Allah. But alas, he could not achieve it. And he recited the following verse, many faces on that day will be humbled, working hard, exhausted. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayat 2-3.
Working hard and exhausted.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayat 2 for the Tafsir.
They will enter to burn in an intensely hot fire.
The scorching fire. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayat 4. The word hamiyah literally means hot and scorching. Although this is the natural property of fire that needed no mention, yet the specific reference to this quality of the fire brings out the point that the fire of hell cannot be compared to the fire of this world. The heat of the fire of this world, some time or the other, is reduced or ends. But the fire of hell is everlasting and eternal. Its heat will neither reduce nor end.
They will be given drink from a boiling spring.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 4 for the Tafsir.
For them there will be no food except from a poisonous, thorny plant.
There will be no food for them except from a thorny plant. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 6. The only food available for the inmates of hell would be dari. In the world, this is a kind of thorny grass that spreads on the ground. No animal goes near it. It is foul-smelling, poisonous, and thorny. As interpreted by Ikrimah, Mujahid, and quoted by Qutubah, how will grass or trees survive in hell? One may ask the question that the grass or trees are among things that burn in fire. How will they survive in hellfire? The answer is that the Supreme Creator, who cherished and sustained them in this world with water and air, has the power and ability to make the fire itself the nutrient of these trees, so that they may flourish. Another question may be raised here. The Quran mentions several things as the food of the inmates of hell. Here it refers to their food as dart. On another occasion, it refers to zakwa, and on a third occasion it refers to gislan. This verse restricts their food to dari. Thus, there will be no food for them except from a thorny plant. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 6. The answer is that the restriction in this verse is in contrast to a palatable food that may be fit for human consumption. Dari is cited here as an example. The verse means that the inmates of hell will not get any palatable food. They will get worst, most disgusting and loathsome food like dari. Thus the purpose of mentioning dari is not restriction. In fact, dari includes Zatham and Gislin. Qutubi says that it is possible there will be different levels in hell, and on different levels there will be different kinds of food. On one level, there will be dart, and on another level, Gislin, and so on.
Which neither nourishes nor avails against hunger.
That will neither nourish nor satisfy hunger. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 7, when the preceding verse was revealed, in which it was stated that the inmates of hell will get food like dari. Some of the pagans of Makkah mockingly said that their camels eat dari, and yet they are fat and healthy. In response to their statement, the following verse of the Quran was revealed, which means that they should not compare the dari of this world with that of the hereafter. The latter will neither provide nutrition nor satisfy their hunger.
Other faces that day will show pleasure.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 7, for the Tafsir.
With their effort they are satisfied.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 7, for the Tafsir.
In an elevated garden.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 7, for the Tafsir.
Wherein they will hear no unsuitable speech.
In which they will not hear any absurd talk. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 11. It includes the words of disbelief, futile or idle talk, obscene language, calumny or false accusation, or any other talk that hurts people's feelings. On another occasion, the Quran puts it thus: they will hear neither an absurd talk therein, nor something leading to sin. Surah Al-Waqiah, Ayah 25. This shows that false accusation and absurd talks are hurtful. That is why the Holy Quran has described it as a blessing to the inmates of paradise, that no such foolish words will come across their ears that may pollute their hearts.
Within it is a flowing spring.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 11, for the Tafsir.
Within it are couches raised high.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 11, for the Tafsir.
And cups put in place.
Etiquette of living, and goblets well placed. Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 14. The word akwab is the plural of kab, and it refers to a goblet, a glass, or a cup for drinking water. It has been qualified by the adjective madu'a, and it means well placed. This signifies that the glasses or cups or containers will be set in their due places close to water. This description opens an important chapter in setting down some of the rules of correct behavior in social situations. The drinking containers for water ought to be placed near the water in the designated place. They should not be misplaced so that the other members of the household will have to look for them when they wish to drink water. This situation is irritating. Other household items of daily use, such as cans, glasses, towels, and so on, should be arranged in their designated places, and after using them, they must be kept back in their respective places, so that the other members of the household do not face any difficulty in finding them out. All this is deducible from the word motto, well placed, because Allah has arranged the goblets near the water for the comfort of the inmates of paradise.
And cushions lined up.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 14, for the Tafsir.
And carpets spread around.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 14, for the Tafsir.
Then do they not look at the camels, how they are created?
So, do they not look at the camels, how they are created? Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17. The Quran first described the conditions of the hereafter, and it then went on to depict the reward of the believers and the retribution of the unbelievers. Now it turns attention to rebuff the obdurate unbelievers' foolish denial of the hereafter. They reject it on the ground that after death and decomposition of the body and bones it is inconceivable that they would be recomposed and resurrected. For their guidance, Allah invites their attention to reflect carefully on a few of His signs. There are uncountable signs of Allah in the universe. These verses refer to 4 of them specifically, which suited the condition of the desert Arabs. They often traveled through the desert. In such a situation, all they saw were camels they traveled on. They mounted camels and covered long journeys. Above them was the sky, and beneath them was the earth. All around them, left, right, front, and back, they saw mountains. The Arabs are commanded to ponder over these 4 natural phenomena which make Allah's might manifest. Among animals, the camel has certain peculiar characteristics that can be a reflection of divine wisdom and power. It is the largest, most robust, and durable animal. Although elephant is a much larger animal than the camel, Allah has mentioned the camel rather than the elephant, because the Arabs knew camels and scarcely saw an elephant. Despite the fact that a camel is such a huge animal, a Bedouin Arab will not find it difficult to look after it even if he is poor. If he is unable to gather or afford food for it, it has to be let loose and will gather its own nutriment and live on leaves. It has a long neck to reach the tops of the high trees. The food of elephants and other animals work out extensive. In Arabian deserts, water is a scarce commodity. It is not available everywhere or anytime. Yet it can survive for about a week without water, as Allah's power has provided it with a small narrow-mouthed pouch in its paunch, in which it stores up extra water, which it uses up gradually for 7 to 8 days. Thus it is a superb draft beast. Nature has created it uniquely, so that it is perfectly adapted to survive the hazards of the harsh climate of the desert. There is no need to set up a ladder to climb up the high animal. Allah has divided its legs into 3 levels. Each leg has 2 knees that it maneuvers to sit down so that it becomes easier for riders to climb up and down. It is the chief beast of burden in deserts, and as such, it is able to carry large loads. It is most difficult to travel in daytime in Arabia because of scorching sunlight. Allah has made it possible for the camel to keep on traveling the whole night. Camels are so obedient that even a little child can lead them along anywhere. Camels are very valuable to them in many other ways that teach men that Allah is omnipotent and has consummate wisdom. In conclusion of the chapter, the Messenger of Allah is comforted thus: "You are not a taskmaster set up over them." Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 22. The Holy Prophet is told that he is only a preacher, and as such he must keep on preaching. He should not worry beyond that. It is for Allah to call the unbelievers to him to render account of their deeds and actions and punish them accordingly.
And at the sky, how it is raised.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
And at the mountains, how they are erected.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
And at the earth, how it is spread out.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
So remind, O Muhammad, you are only a reminder.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
You are not over them a controller.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
However, he who turns away and disbelieves.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
Then Allah will punish him with the greatest punishment.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
Indeed, to us is their return.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.
Then indeed, upon us is their account.
See Surah Al-Ghashiyah, Ayah 17, for the Tafsir.